This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Flipping 50 Show, the place to tune up, reset, and prepare for your second and better half with the energy and the vitality that you want. In every episode, I share with you what to eat, how to move, and how to change your thoughts so that you can have the energy and the vitality you want in this second half. And today, it's just me, no guest. I get these questions all the time. How do I get started? And then frequently we start diving into deeper topics, really looking at gut health, hormone health, libido, and sometimes we get lost in the shuffle. And if you're just starting out and wondering, how do I even begin to pick up weights to help myself work on holding on to lean muscle tone and burning fat, then this is your show. So it's a back to basics show and looking at building out some support tools for my newest DVD set, actually my first DVD set. I'll say my newest video set. We're going to call it The Whole Flip. And I'm preparing some cheat sheets and guides that will help someone who gets that set not just plug it in, turn it in, put it in the DVD player and do the workout, but actually know how does that fit into the whole picture of what my goals are for myself. So really that's what prompted this podcast, thinking, I really have not shared the basics with you recently. So I'm diving in. These are the questions I am most frequently asked. How do I get started? What do I need? What size weights do I use? Should I lift weights every day? Should I eat before exercise? What if I have a joint issue? And what if I have osteoporosis or fibromyalgia? Is it okay to do these? So I'm going to answer or attempt to answer all those. And I'm hoping that in your response or comments to the show, you will let me know if I have handled that task or if you have additional questions. So number one, how do you get started and what is it that you need? So number one, if you were talking about home workout and you don't have access to a gym, here's what you're going to need. You're going to want at the minimum one pair each of light, medium, and heavy weights. And that'll give you choices for your small and your large muscle groups and for those joints that you may have to give a little more TLC to. Maybe you've had a shoulder injury, and those need really small weights. Small amounts of resistance will do a lot more good than more weight will. So, what is light, medium, and heavy? How do you qualify or quantify that? Here's my recommendation, and here's why I'm not telling you what weight I use, because that's not a great answer for you to compare to. It's not a good judge for you to say, oh, I'm really weak, or for you to say, oh, I'm really strong, because it's all really relative to, number one, your life experience, whether you have ever been lifting weights or whether you have a more sedentary job or an active job, whether you do have special conditions like arthritis or fibromyalgia or osteoporosis, or whether you have issues that are related to you've worked on a farm and you've baled hay and throw bales of hay around regularly. All of those things may either have made you stronger, may have given you back issues, and so none of us should really be comparing our weight to the next person's. Now, sometimes it gives you a little relativity, but that's all you want to use it for, because your goal is to be successful. If you're looking to, for instance, build more lean muscle or hold on to the lean muscle you have so that you can burn more fat, really your goal is fatigue. And it doesn't matter if that weight that fatigues you is a lighter weight than I use or a heavier weight than I use, or any soul sister standing next to you in a group fitness class. It's all about you. and whether or not you fatigue. That's it. So let yourself do that non-comparison rule and be smart about your own exercise needs. So let me now answer that question with a little bit more tangible response. So here's what I use as a reference. I like to recommend something between about 15 and 25, and it's only recently that I've extended that up to 25 repetitions to fatigue because of recent research. The key is fatigue. You need to come to that point where you can't do one more repetition with good form. It's where you start feeling yourself cheat. You actually become aware that you're doing it. And as long as you can reach that point, you're okay. So, starting out, remember that if you're just beginning, this is where you want to be, somewhere between 15 and 25. And typically, I have been for the last 30 years recommending 15 is really about the top. If you can get to 15 or 20 repetitions and you're not at fatigue, you need a heavier weight. That would be my preference for anybody who can tolerate it based on their joints and their muscles. So here we go. Light would be somewhere between probably 2 to 5 pounds, okay? And medium would be, relative to that, somewhere between probably 8 and 15 pounds. Now, dumbbells come in 8, 10, 12, 15 pounds. That's pretty normal. In terms of heavy weights, if that were you, then probably somewhere between 12 to 20 pounds. Now, obviously, if your medium weight is 15, your heavy weight is going to be at least 20. But you may find that you top out quickly. So your lightweight might be 2 pounds, medium might be 15, bigger gap than to your heavy. So don't look for any specific spread, but here's the best recommendation would be either at your gym where you have access to all of them, it's not costing you anything more, figure it out, play with them, figure out what you really need. And if you can, if you're going to buy them in a store, which I'd highly recommend so you don't pay shipping charges on dumbbells, is pick them up and do a set. Find out which ones you do need, but kind of use this as a guide. So another sample set might be if your lightweight was 3 to 5 pounds, your medium might be 10 to 25 pounds, anywhere in there, much bigger range. And your heavy weight might be 20 or 30 pounds. Maybe it's even more than 30 pounds. For your lower body exercises, like squats, for instance, or an upper body exercise like a bent over row that you could actually do one arm at a time as opposed to doing both arms at the same time. Sometimes one-armed is actually a good idea. That unilateral work lets your body play in a way that you actually work through your day. So think about it. When you walk up to a building and you put a hand on the door to open it, if that's a heavy door, you're doing it with one arm and you're leveraging with the rest of your body. So to do a row with 2 arms all the time isn't something that carries over to your activities of daily living as much as doing one arm at a time. So here's what you want to do. Think about using a kettlebell as an alternative. And occasionally in the videos I'll do for YouTube, the digital videos that we currently have on flipping50.com or the new ones, that you'll see me use a kettlebell. And it's really for convenience. I'm not using traditional kettlebell exercises in the videos. I'm using basic exercises that get the best results for the least amount of time. But in that, I'll use a kettlebell as I'm doing squats because it's easier to hold on to. And my choice here at home is limited, maybe very much like yours. I have a couple sets of smaller dumbbells, and I have a medium set of dumbbells, and then instead of getting a heavy set of dumbbells, I got a single kettlebell. So I have limited space where I want to set up these weights, and that's just what I've done for convenience sake. So you can make any space and any amount of equipment work. You may find what you get at first you're going to graduate from, and you're going to need something a little bit more heavy at some point. So don't feel like you have to buy all of them at once, but I would suggest give yourself a light, a medium, and a heavy option. And if you want to, and you have a big enough hand that you can do this, to skirt around getting a light set, try soup cans. So they may be really light, but at first, if you're not sure what you need, that's a good way to start and find out, will this be enough? And a soup can is probably about a pound. That's going to be the max, but that will be enough to give you some feedback. So that's what you need and how you get started. What you want to be thinking about now that you've got the weights is that progression is a key to fitness. It's a key principle. And what that means is you want to start at some place, but you've always got to be changing and increasing in some way the demand on your muscle. That doesn't always mean increase the weight, doesn't always mean increase the repetitions or the number of sets that you do, but it usually means one or the other. So let's start with the load. So when someone says to me or asks me, how much weight do I use? The answer is, it's really about how many repetitions you need to do to reach fatigue. When you're a beginner, you want to start with something you can do 15 to 25, 28 times. And if you've got fibromyalgia, osteoporosis, or arthritis, you probably want to start with the higher range of repetition and a lighter weight, just to see how you adapt and do. You're testing to find out, okay, I handled that okay, now I can increase my weight, decrease my repetitions. But that said, you choose a weight that will allow you to fatigue in that range. So then, progressing next, you move down to a weight you can only do 15 times. Next, you progress to a weight you can do potentially up to 10 times. Up to, meaning maybe you fatigue at 6 or 8. So it doesn't take a lot to actually do a lot of work and a lot of good. Now, another way to add progression is sets. A beginner, we know, can see results doing one set at a time. You can progress then to 2 sets and further progress to 3 sets. Now, there are some studies that show older adults, particularly those tested where subjects who were in their 70s, had more benefit to their lean muscle mass when they did 4 sets. So they didn't start there, but they progressed from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And here's how you progress. Ideally, you spend 2 weeks in each phase of progression, and you only modify one variable at a time. So let's say week 1, you start with one set of between 15 and 28 repetitions to fatigue. Week 2, you have a choice. You could either, we're in phase 2. Let me back up. So you're going to stay there for 2 weeks. And once you get there, what you want to do after that 2 weeks is either increase your weight, decreasing your repetitions, or increase to 2 sets, but not both. Choose one or the other. Then you're going to stay there, and the following phase, after 2 more weeks, then you could do the other alternative. So if you had increased your weight the first progression, then the second time you progressed, you might add a second set, and so on. So it takes weeks, even months, to truly progress. And here's the secret. Progression is really never done. You do get to a point where you may not increase your repetitions or you're increasing your sets. You may not increase your weight, but you are going to start to play with the variables so that you always find a way to reach fatigue and stimulate the muscles in a new way. So don't feel that you're ever going to get there where all you do is walk in the door and you do the same routine. Because if you do that and you're never having to think about what you're doing, you're probably slipping backward, not going forward. Okay, so what's next as far as should I lift weights every day? Let's answer that question. So that's a big one, and I get that a lot. And here's why. You and I want progress, we want results yesterday. So here's the answer to that. When you're lifting weights every day, or you hear that people are, typically what they're doing is dividing their days into body parts. So on Monday, for instance, they might do legs, and on Tuesday, they might do arms, and on Wednesday, they might do abs, and on Thursday, they might do chest, and on Friday, they might do legs again, and so on. But here's the thing, when you exercise like that, it's really a lot of muscle isolation and not quite as much metabolism stimulation unless you have a lot of time to spend each time that you walk into the gym. So if you're spending 45 minutes a day or an hour working on each individual body part, that may work for you. But if you're truly a midlife woman with a busy, busy life and you want metabolism stimulating work, I highly recommend doing a full body workout each and every time, twice a week, and twice a week gets the majority of the work done. You can add that third time a week, but here's what I like to see. Rather than doing that really major muscle group basic exercise 3 times a week, I like to see that done just twice, and if a third time is thrown in, because some of us are just creatures of habit, and we need the habit of lifting the weights 3 times to keep ourselves consistent. I totally get that. What I would do with that third day is put it between the other two. So let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday are your weight days. Monday and Friday would be your major muscle group, your heavier weight loads, and your big metabolism boost. But on Wednesday, you are going to work out, but you're going to do more functional work with lighter weights, stimulating more of unilateral work, doing one arm work, one leg work, doing things where you have more balance required, more core is involved, and you're really helping yourself do things like pick up grandchildren, walk dogs. You're helping yourself play golf. You're helping yourself garden by rotating more in the workout and doing those types of things that are not so ordinary and basic. When I say ordinary and basic, I love squats, lunges, rows, presses. Simple, basic exercises for major muscle groups that boost your metabolism like nothing else will. Now, you can move fast, or you can actually work to fatigue and work those major muscle groups and get optimal results. So, what you want to keep in mind is, what are your goals? What do you want to get better at? Do you want to get better at exercise in the gym or the life you have outside the gym? And most of the clients I work with, it's the latter. So, if you want to get better with life outside the gym, you want to be thinking about how can I, yes, boost my metabolism, burn more fat, and involve some functional exercise to help me do that. Next question I get so often is, do I eat before exercise or should I fast before I am exercising, or exercise on an empty stomach, in other words? So generally, this one comes for those people who are exercising first thing in the morning. So the key is, if you're somebody who watches what you eat, you're very conscientious about it, then fasting doesn't necessarily serve you more, or as far as increasing your amount of fat burning during exercise. It is only really for those people who've overeaten, who've eaten a lot more calories, but also a lot more fat the night before. So it's not a good solution for a binge to know that you can work it off or burn it off the next day, but it may in fact help you if that happens. I wouldn't plan for that. So the ideal is that most of the time you're eating the right thing and most of the time you're getting a great workout. The real answer to that question is, how do you feel best? So if you are distracted from your workout because you're hungry or you're tired, you're not going to work as hard, spend as much energy, or get as much results. Research has shown that people who have a snack of some kind, very easily digested snack, actually work harder, perceive the workout to not be as hard, and are more likely to repeat it because it's been a little bit more enjoyable, or at the least not so painful. So think about who you are. I also know people who can't stomach anything before they eat, who claim they don't like the way they feel bogged down if they eat before they exercise. So know who you are and abide by that. What if I have a joint issue? That's a really common question. And by the time you're 50 or 60 or 70 something, there is a good chance you will. Just because you've lived a really good life, whether or not you've been really active in sports or not, by at this point, you may have something. And so if you do, work around it. But most of us know this intuitively, and yet we kind of bury it somewhere inside ourselves. You are going to feel better, look better, and there will probably be less joint pain if you exercise, at least exercise it correctly, than if you don't. What if I have osteoporosis or fibromyalgia? I could almost repeat that last answer. Osteoporosis is low bone density. There are some contraindicated exercises that will make you most likely hesitant about exercising if you've read about them. But the key here is this, that osteoporosis is a suggestion for you to stay strong, stay vibrant, stay moving, stay active, so that you can stop or slow the bone losses that are already happening, and so that you can gain strength for balance, so that you will reduce your risk for a fall and therefore a fracture. Fibromyalgia is tricky. I'll just say that. So, depending on who you are, how difficult a time you have with your fibro in general, that will tell you how to get started. So I'm kind of groping for words if you can hear it, but I have had an entire continuum, a broad continuum of fibromyalgia clients through the years. Some I would never, ever have guessed that they had fibromyalgia, compared to those others who were, I couldn't touch them actually, a hand on their body. They had really big trigger points. They were needing really very conservative workouts. They were very hypersensitive to things like chlorine. Getting in the water was not an option for them. And also had complications like migraines. So there's an entire gamut of what would be appropriate for you in exercise based on your specific condition. But in general, there's probably no one who would not benefit from strength training so long as it was applied specific to them and to their needs. If you have a question and I haven't answered it right here, leave me a comment or a question underneath the show notes at flipping50.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed the show and it was valuable, please leave a rating in iTunes and share this with a friend so that you can flip 50 together and have the life and the energy that you love in the second half.